Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we're going to be talking about something that I think a lot of us can relate to, natural ways to relieve muscle and joint pain.
It's amazing. I mean, there's so much information out there about this topic. You've got research articles, traditional practices, and even some personal anecdotes. It's quite a bit to dig into.
For sure. So whether you're dealing with chronic aches or you're just curious about alternatives to always taking medication, I think this is going to be a good one for you. And one thing that really stood out to me going through all these different sources was the emphasis on movement. It's not just about resting and letting things heal.
Yeah, absolutely. Our bodies, we're designed to move. And while you might think that exercise would actually make pain worse, it can actually be super helpful. It's just about choosing the right types of movement for you.
Right, like swimming. That's always a classic. Or even just like going for a walk. But then you've got things like Tai Chi, which I've always been curious about, but I've never really understood how it could help with pain.
So, think of it this way. Tai Chi is kind of like moving meditation. It involves slow, gentle movements that improve flexibility, balance, and strength. And there are actually studies that have shown that for people with knee osteoarthritis, practicing Tai Chi regularly can increase their range of motion. Like, we're talking up to 30%, which is pretty significant.
Wow, that's a lot more than I would have expected. So it's not just about relaxation, there are actual measurable benefits.
Precisely. And it's not just Tai Chi. Any form of gentle stretching can really work wonders for managing pain, because when your muscles are tight, they can pull on your joints, and that's going to lead to discomfort. But by stretching regularly, you can loosen those muscles up and reduce the stress on your joints.
That makes a lot of sense. I know I often feel stiff and achy after sitting at my desk for too long, and a few stretches definitely help to loosen things up. But let's move beyond just movement. What about other natural therapies? The sources we've got cover so many options. Heat therapy, cold therapy, diet, massage. It's almost a little overwhelming.
Right. It is. It can feel like a buffet of remedies, for sure. But here's a way to think about it. First, consider if your pain is acute, meaning it came on suddenly, or chronic, which means it's been lingering for a while, and that can help you narrow down your choices.
So if I pulled a muscle yesterday, that would be acute pain, but my nagging shoulder issue that's been around for months would be chronic.
Exactly. And then second, think about what's easily accessible to you. If you're looking for immediate relief, a heating pad for muscle soreness or an ice pack for a recent injury can be really helpful.
Okay, that's a good place to start. But I'm also really interested in the long-term strategies, and that's where diet comes in, right? These sources go deep into anti-inflammatory foods, things like fatty fish, turmeric, ginger. There's a whole list.
There's quite a list, and these foods can be super powerful allies in reducing inflammation and managing pain.
I'm particularly intrigued by turmeric. I feel like it's everywhere these days. Turmeric lattes, turmeric supplements. Is it really all it's cracked up to be?
So turmeric contains a compound called curcumin, which has really potent anti-inflammatory properties. And there are studies that have shown that curcumin can be as effective as ibuprofen in reducing pain for people with osteoarthritis. And for those who prefer supplements, a typical dosage of curcumin is around 500 milligrams twice a day.
See, that's the kind of detail I love. It's one thing to know that turmeric is good for you, but knowing the actual dosage makes it a lot more actionable.
I agree. It's about empowering you to make informed choices. Now, while turmeric is a great example, remember that a diverse diet rich in a variety of anti-inflammatory foods is key. Don't just rely on one magic ingredient.
Okay, so no turmeric-only diet for me. Got it. But speaking of things that smell good, the source material also mentions essential oils, like lavender and peppermint. Those are things a lot of people might already have at home. I've used lavender oil for relaxation, but I'm less familiar with its potential for pain relief.
Both lavender and peppermint oil have some interesting properties. So lavender is known for its calming effects, which can help with the stress and tension that often comes along with pain. Peppermint oil, on the other hand, creates this cooling sensation when you apply it topically, which can help distract from pain signals and reduce inflammation.
So it's not necessarily that they're directly targeting the source of the pain, but they're helping to manage how we perceive it.
That's a great way to put it. And remember, when using essential oils, it's super important to choose high-quality oils and dilute them properly before putting them on your skin.
Good point. It's easy to forget that natural doesn't always equal safe.
Now, I have to admit, I'm a bit skeptical about some of the more alternative therapies mentioned, like acupuncture. Is there really any scientific evidence to support it, or is it all just placebo effect? That's a question that researchers are still trying to fully understand. So, traditional Chinese medicine, it explains acupuncture as a way to balance the flow of energy or qi in the body. Western science doesn't quite have a grasp on that concept, but studies have shown that acupuncture can actually stimulate the release of endorphins, which are our body's natural pain relievers.
So while the exact mechanisms might be unclear, there's at least some physiological basis for its effects.
Exactly. And for some people, that's enough to give it a try. But as with any therapy, it's important to approach it with an open mind and realistic expectations.
Okay, that's fair. Now, one thing that's kind of struck me as we've been talking is how many of these methods, whether it's exercise, diet, or even essential oils, address things like stress and posture, not just the pain itself.
That's a really astute observation, and it brings us to the importance of a holistic approach to pain management.
Holistic, meaning it's not just about masking the pain, but understanding the bigger picture.
Exactly. Our bodies are complex systems, and pain is often a symptom of a deeper imbalance. It could be physical, like poor posture or muscle tension, or it could be emotional, like stress or anxiety. And addressing that root cause rather than just the symptom is key to long-term relief.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've covered movement, at-home remedies, diet, and even touched on some alternative therapies. What else is in our natural pain relief toolkit?
Well, you know how we were just talking about turmeric? There's a whole world of supplements and natural remedies out there that people use for pain relief. Have you ever looked into any of those?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I've definitely dabbled in like the turmeric and ginger supplements, especially when I'm feeling kind of under the weather. But I'm curious about some of the less mainstream options. The source material mentions things like boswellia and glucosamine. Are those worth checking out for muscle and joint pain?
That's a good question. Boswellia, which you might also know as Indian frankincense, has a long history in traditional medicine, especially for treating inflammation. And there is some promising research suggesting that it could be helpful for conditions like osteoarthritis.
Oh, wow, interesting. So it's not just for making your house smell nice during the holidays.
Right, it's got some medicinal properties too. And then there's glucosamine and chondroitin, which you often see marketed together, especially for joint health. And these compounds are naturally found in cartilage, so some studies indicate they might actually help slow down the breakdown of cartilage and ease pain in people with osteoarthritis.
So they're not like a miracle cure,
Yeah.
but they could potentially help manage the symptoms.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that supplements are often seen as complementary to conventional medical treatment, not replacements. It's always a good idea to talk to your doctor before starting any new supplements, especially if you have other health conditions or are taking other medications.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's easy to get caught up in all the hype around natural remedies and forget that they can still have interactions or side effects.
For sure. And speaking of potential interactions, it's important to be mindful of how different therapies might work together. For example, if you're using essential oils topically, you'd want to make sure that they won't interact with any medications you're taking.
Oh, good reminder. Now, the source also mentions hydration and detoxification as being factors in pain management. I'll admit, I've always been a bit skeptical of the whole detox trend. But is there really a connection between hydration and muscle and joint pain?
There definitely can be. Staying hydrated is super important for overall health, including, keeping your joints lubricated and your muscles functioning properly. When you're dehydrated, your muscles can cramp up and feel stiff.
That makes sense. So something as simple as drinking enough water can be a step towards managing pain.
Absolutely. And while the source doesn't go too deep into detoxification, it is worth considering that reducing your exposure to toxins, whether that's through diet or lifestyle choices, can help reduce inflammation in the body. And that indirectly can benefit muscle and joint health.
Okay, so maybe there's something to that whole detox idea after all. Now let's talk about something that I know I'm personally guilty of neglecting, and that is posture. I spend hours hunched over my computer, and I know it can't be good for my back. But how big of a role does posture actually play in muscle and joint pain?
Posture plays a huge role. Think about it. Your spine is like the foundation of your body. And if that foundation is off kilter because of poor posture, it can put so much stress on your joints and muscles, which can lead to pain and stiffness over time.
So like a domino effect, one thing leads to another.
Exactly. When you're slouching, your spine is out of alignment, and your muscles have to work so much harder to compensate for that. That's where things like chiropractic care and posture correction techniques can be really helpful. By realigning the spine and strengthening the muscles that support good posture, you can reduce stress on your joints and help alleviate pain.
And the source even mentions that a misaligned spine can actually contribute to muscle and joint pain in other parts of your body too. It really is all connected.
It is. So even if you think your pain is coming from, one specific area, it's worth considering whether posture might be a contributing factor.
So how can we improve our posture? Are there any simple tips that we can start implementing, today?
Absolutely. First and foremost, just be mindful of your posture throughout the day. So when you're sitting, make sure your feet are flat on the floor, your back is straight, and your shoulders are relaxed. And when you're standing, distribute your weight evenly and try to avoid slouching.
Yeah, those are great tips. But I know it's easy to forget about posture when you're, busy working or just going about your day.
You're right. Which is why it's helpful to incorporate some regular stretches and exercises that strengthen your core and back muscles. Those muscles are really important for supporting your spine and maintaining good posture. You could even try setting reminders on your phone to, just check your posture throughout the day.
Those are all great ideas. It's amazing how interconnected everything is when it comes to our bodies.
It really is. And that kind of brings us to another really important aspect of natural pain relief that we haven't really touched on much yet, and that's stress management. The source highlights mind-body techniques like meditation and deep breathing as being helpful for pain.
Yeah. I can see how stress would play a role,
Hmm.
but how exactly does it contribute to muscle and joint pain?
Well, when we're stressed, our bodies release hormones like cortisol, which can actually increase inflammation and muscle tension. So it's not just in your head, stress can actually manifest physically as pain.
So it's like this vicious cycle, right? Stress leads to pain, which can lead to more stress.
Exactly. That's why incorporating some relaxation techniques into your routine can be so beneficial. Things like meditation, deep breathing, even just taking a few minutes to unwind and de-stress those can really help break that cycle.
It's all starting to come together now. We've got movement, diet, supplements, posture, stress management. It seems like the key takeaway here is that there are many natural ways to approach muscle and joint pain, and it's about finding what works best for you.
I couldn't agree more. This deep dive has really highlighted that it's not just about treating the symptoms, but understanding those root causes and addressing them holistically.
It's like we've uncovered this whole toolkit of natural remedies. Some are things we can do on our own, like adjusting our diet or practicing relaxation techniques, while others might involve seeking out professionals, like massage therapists or acupuncturists.
Right. And it's important to remember that what works for one person may not work for another. It's really about finding the right combination of approaches that address your individual needs and preferences.
And it's a journey, right?
Yeah.
Not like a quick fix.
Oh, for sure. Managing pain naturally takes patience, consistency, and you really got to be willing to experiment and see what works best for you as an individual.
As we've been talking about all of this, I've realized that the source material doesn't really touch on sleep. And it seems like that would be a pretty important factor too.
You are absolutely right. Sleep is so crucial for muscle recovery and repair. When we sleep, our bodies release growth hormone, which helps to rebuild those tissues and reduce inflammation.
So if you're not getting enough sleep, could that actually make muscle and joint pain worse?
It definitely can. If you're not getting enough sleep, your muscles and joints don't really have adequate time to recover, which can lead to, more pain and stiffness.
Huh. That's something I'm definitely going to be paying more attention to. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. Is there anything else you want to emphasize before we wrap up?
Just to reiterate that, this is just a starting point. There are so many other natural pain relief options out there. It's worth exploring different approaches and talking to qualified healthcare professionals to figure out what works best for you.
I think that's a great takeaway. We've learned that there are so many different paths to natural pain relief, from something as simple as drinking enough water to more specialized therapies like acupuncture. The key is to be proactive, be informed, and be patient in finding what works best for you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into natural pain relief. We hope you found it informative and empowering.
And as you continue exploring these options, we encourage you to really think about the connection between sleep and muscle and joint health. It's something that often gets overlooked, but it can play a big role in your overall well-being.
Until next time, happy healing.